The darkness between the stars was not empty. Something ancient lived there, waiting and watching. It had no name that any living being could speak, but those who had felt its hunger called it the Maw. For 10,000 years it had slept in the cold void, dreaming of its next meal. The Maw was older than most suns. It remembered when galaxies were young and life was new. It had learned early that fear tasted better than joy, that despair was sweeter than hope. Across 17 star systems, it had fed on dying worlds. Each time was the same. First came the terror, then the anger, then the beautiful hatred as species turned against each other in their final moments. Now something had awakened it. New voices in the darkness, new emotions to taste. Captain Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of the New Seoul, watching the stars stream past through the main window. The ship was massive, longer than 10 city blocks and carrying 10,000 sleeping colonists toward their new home. They had traveled farther from Earth than any human had gone before. Hyun was 42 years old, with gray starting to show in his black hair. He had been in space for most of his adult life, but this mission was different. This time, his family was with him. His wife, Dr. Park Nari, slept in the medical bay, ready to wake if needed. His 12-year-old daughter, Kim Sola, dreamed in her pod, probably about the new world they would call home. "Captain, we have a problem," said Navigator Im Soo-jin from her station. She was young, barely 25, but the best pilot Hyun had ever worked with. Her fingers moved quickly over the control panel. "Something is wrong with our course readings." Hyun walked over to look at her screen. The star maps showed their position, but the numbers made no sense. "Are we lost?" "No, sir, that is the strange part. We know exactly where we are. But space around us is changing. The stars are moving in ways they should not move." Chief Engineer Kang Min-ho looked up from his repair work. He was a big man with hands that were always dirty from fixing things. "Captain, I am getting readings I have never seen before. Something is pulling at our ship from outside normal space." Before Hyun could answer, the lights flickered. A sound filled the bridge like singing but wrong somehow. It made everyone feel cold inside. Communications Officer Young Woo Jin pressed his hands to his ears. "Captain, I am picking up signals from empty space, but they are not coming from any ship or station." The singing grew louder. Through the main window, the stars began to bend and stretch like someone was pulling on them. Space itself seemed to be folding. "All stop," Hyun ordered. "Cut the engines." But it was too late. Something vast and invisible wrapped around their ship. The New Seoul shuddered as forces beyond understanding took hold of it. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in red as alarms began to sound. "Sir, we are being pulled somewhere," Soo-jin reported, her voice shaking. "I cannot break us free." The stars outside the window swirled faster and faster until they became lines of light. Then everything went dark. When the lights came back on, they were somewhere else. The familiar stars were gone. Instead, a dim red glow filled space around them. In the distance, shapes floated that might have been ships, but they were broken and dead. "Where are we?" Hyun asked. "I do not know," Soo-jin whispered. "This place is not on any map." That was when they saw it. The thing that had brought them here was too big to understand at first. It looked like a storm made of shadow and hunger. Tentacles of darkness reached out from its center, each one larger than their ship. At its heart was something that might have been a mouth filled with light that hurt to look at. The Maw had been sleeping when it felt them coming. New minds, new emotions, new food. It reached out across the void and pulled them into its feeding ground, the pocket of twisted space where it kept its meals until they were ready. As always, it began by tasting what it had caught. The alien presence touched Hyun's mind, and he felt its hunger like a physical weight. Images flashed through his thoughts. Worlds dying, species screaming as they were consumed. The taste of fear and hatred that the Maw loved so much. But when the entity tried to feed on Hyun's terror, something unexpected happened. The captain was afraid, yes, but not for himself. His fear was for his crew, for his sleeping family, for the 10,000 colonists who trusted him to keep them safe. The Maw recoiled. This taste was wrong, bitter and strange. "Captain," said Security Chief Cho Dae-hyun, rushing onto the bridge. He was a former soldier, tough and ready for anything. But his face was pale. "Sir, something is happening to the crew. People are having nightmares even while awake. Some are talking about giving up, about ending it all." Hyun felt the alien presence pressing against his mind again, trying to turn his protective instincts into despair. It whispered to him about how hopeless their situation was, how he had failed everyone by bringing them here. "No," Hyun said out loud, surprising everyone on the bridge. "I will not listen to you." The Maw was confused. In all its long existence, no prey had ever spoken to it directly. Usually by now, fear would have broken their minds and turned them against each other. Hyun turned to his crew. "I know you can all feel it too. This thing wants us to be afraid, wants us to hate each other, but we will not give it what it wants." Medical Officer Dr. Yoon Ji-won came onto the bridge, her medical coat stained with work. She was a kind woman who had joined the mission to help build a better world. "Captain, I have been treating people for panic attacks and worse. But something strange is happening. When I help them, when I show them kindness, they get better, faster than they should." The Maw felt this too. Each act of care, each moment of compassion, tasted like poison in its ancient consciousness. This had never happened before. "What do you want from us?" Hyun called out to the darkness outside. The answer came not in words but in visions. The Maw showed him the 17 civilizations it had consumed, how each one had turned to violence and hatred when faced with extinction, how beautiful their despair had tasted as they died. It offered Hyun a choice. Give up the alien refugees they carried on their ship, let the crew turn on each other as they always did, and the Maw would make his death quick and painless. Hyun looked around at his crew. These people had left everything behind to build something better among the stars. They trusted him to lead them. "No," he said simply. "We will not abandon anyone. We will not turn on each other. And we will find a way home." For the first time, in 10,000 years, the Maw felt something like confusion. This prey was different. Their emotions tasted wrong. And somewhere in its vast alien consciousness, it began to feel the first hint of what would eventually destroy it. The taste of human kindness was making it sick. The Maw waited for the humans to break. It had done this so many times before. First came the fear, then the anger, then the beautiful moment when they turned on each other. It was always the same pattern across every species it had consumed. But 3 days passed and the humans were still helping each other. Captain Lee Hyun walked through the corridors of the New Seoul, checking on his crew. The ship's lights flickered constantly now, and strange shadows moved in corners where nothing should cast them. The alien presence pressed against everyone's minds, whispering dark thoughts and filling their dreams with nightmares. He found Chief Engineer Kang Min-ho in the engine room, working alongside Technician Park Jin-soo. This surprised Hyun because the two men hated each other. Jin-soo had reported Min-ho for safety violations 6 months ago, nearly costing him his job. "How are the repairs going?" Hyun asked. Min-ho looked up, sweat covering his face. "Not good, Captain. This thing is messing with our power systems, but Jin-soo here figured out a way to reroute the main conduits." "It was Min-ho's idea," Jin-soo said quickly. "I just helped with the smaller components." Hyun watched the two men work together, sharing tools and covering each other's backs. The alien entity had been pushing hatred into their minds for days, trying to make them fight. Instead, they were working as a team. The Maw felt this cooperation like a physical pain. Where was the betrayal? Where was the selfishness that always emerged when species faced extinction? In the medical bay, Dr. Yoon Ji-won was treating a young crew member named Lee Min-seo, who had been having severe panic attacks. The alien presence had been feeding him visions of his death over and over, trying to drive him insane. "I can't take it anymore," Min-seo whispered, shaking. "It shows me terrible things. It wants me to hurt myself, to hurt others." Dr. Yoon sat beside his bed and took his hand. "I know it is hard. But you are stronger than it thinks you are. We all are. She began to hum a soft lullaby, the same song her mother had sung to her as a child. Other patients in the medical bay joined in, their voices mixing together in harmony. The shadows in the corners seemed to pull back from the sound. The maw recoiled again. Music was supposed to become screaming. Comfort was supposed to become cruelty. But these humans kept doing the opposite of what they were supposed to do. On Deck 7, Security Chief Cho Dae-hyun was dealing with a more serious problem. The alien influence had caused a section of the hull to weaken, and atmosphere was leaking into space. If it was not fixed soon, that entire section would become uninhabitable. Dae-hyun stood at the sealed blast door looking at the emergency suits hanging on the wall. The repair work would be dangerous. One person could do it, but they would probably not survive the radiation exposure. "I will go," said maintenance worker Kim Bogum, stepping forward. He was young, maybe 22, with a family waiting for him in the colony pods. "No," Dae-hyun said firmly. "I am security chief. It is my job to take the risks." "Sir, you have command experience we need. I am just maintenance." Before they could argue further, Navigator Im Soo-jin appeared with 3 other crew members. "We have a better idea. If we all go together, we can share the radiation exposure. No one has to die." Dae-hyun stared at her. "That is not how this works. Someone has to make the sacrifice." "Why?" asked Communications Officer Jung Woo-jin. "Why does someone have to die? We are humans. We find another way." The Ma watched this scene with growing frustration. This was the moment when species always broke. When faced with certain death, they always chose to save themselves and let others die. It was the natural order of things, but the humans were planning a group mission where everyone would survive. The repair team suited up and entered the damaged section together. They worked quickly, each person taking turns in the most dangerous areas so no one would be exposed for too long. When Bogum's radiation detector started beeping dangerously, Soo-jin immediately switched places with him. When her levels got too high, Woo-jin took over. They finished the repairs in 2 hours. Everyone was alive. The alien entity felt something it had not experienced in 10,000 years. Confusion was turning into something else, something that might have been panic. Down in the colony section, more strange things were happening. The sleeping pods were arranged by species, with humans in one area, and the various alien refugees they had rescued in another. The Maw had been trying to wake some of the aliens, planning to turn them against their human protectors. But when a young Krellin child woke up screaming from nightmares, it was Dr. Park Nari who came to help. She had awakened from her own sleep pod when the medical systems detected the distress. "Shh, it is okay," she said gently, even though the child looked nothing like a human. The Krellin had blue skin and 4 arms, and spoke in musical tones that her translator barely understood. The child was afraid. The Maw had been showing it images of its homeworld burning, of its family dying. But Dr. Park sat beside the pod and began to sing the same lullaby that Dr. Yoon had used in the medical bay. Other humans began to wake up from nearby pods. Instead of being angry about the disturbance, they came to help. Soon there was a small group of humans surrounding the frightened alien child, all singing softly. The Maw tried to push hatred into their minds. These aliens were not their species. They were taking up space and resources. They were the reason the humans were in danger, but the humans just kept singing. More alien children began to wake up, drawn by the sound. A young Vorthak with scales instead of skin. A tiny Zeldin with tentacles for arms. Each one was afraid. Each one had been having the same terrible nightmares. The humans welcomed them all. Dr. Park's daughter, Kim Sola, woke up and saw the gathering. Instead of being scared of the alien children, she was curious. "Are they okay, Mom?" "They will be," Dr. Park said. "They just need to know they are safe." Sola walked over to the young Krellin and offered it one of her toys, a small stuffed animal, from Earth. The alien child took it carefully and hugged it close. The Maw felt this act of kindness like acid burning through its consciousness. A human child, sharing with an alien child. No fear, no hatred, just simple generosity. For the first time since it had awakened, The ancient entity began to feel something that might have been fear. Not fear of death, for it was immortal. Fear of something worse. Fear of starving. These humans were not giving it what it needed to survive. Every act of kindness, every moment of cooperation, every choice to help instead of hurt was like poison in its system. The maw had fed on 17 civilizations, but it had never encountered anything like this before. It began to realize that these humans might actually be dangerous. Navigator Im Soo-jin had not slept in 4 days. She sat at her station on the bridge staring at readings that made no sense. The space around them was wrong, twisted in ways that hurt to think about. But somewhere in all the strange data, she was finding a pattern. "Captain," she called to Lee Hyun, who was reviewing damage reports. "I think I understand what this thing is doing to us." Hyun walked over to her station. Dark circles under his eyes showed he had not been sleeping either. "What did you find?" Soo-jin pointed to her screen. "Look at these quantum disturbance readings. Every time someone on our ship does something kind, something helpful, the readings spike. But when people are angry or afraid, they go down. What does that mean?" "I think this creature feeds on negative emotions. Bad feelings make it stronger, but good feelings make it sick." Hyun stared at the data. It was almost too simple to believe. "Are you saying we can hurt this thing just by being nice to each other?" "Maybe. But there is more." Soo-jin switched to another screen. "These readings show other ships trapped here, lots of them, and Captain, some of them still have life signs." The bridge fell silent. Other survivors trapped in this nightmare place for who knew how long. "Can we contact them?" Hyun asked. Communications officer Jung Woo-jin looked up from his station. "I have been trying, sir, but the signals are very weak. Wait." He pressed his headphones closer to his ears. "I am getting something now. It sounds like people talking, but the language is not human." The voice that came through the speakers was clearly not human, but the universal translator made it understandable. It was weak and full of static. "Please help us. We have been trapped here for so long. Our food is almost gone. Many of us have given up hope." Hyun took the microphone. "This is Captain Lee Hyun of the human vessel New Seoul. We hear you. What is your situation?" "Humans?" The alien voice sounded surprised. "We are survivors from the Kelton homeworld. The shadow creature brought us here 3 years ago. We tried to fight it, but it was too strong. Now we wait to die." "How many of you are there?" "Maybe 200, from different species. We were all traveling together when it caught us. But, Captain, you should not try to help us. This thing will destroy you too." Hyun looked around the bridge at his crew. They all had the same expression on their faces. They were going to help no matter what the risk. "We are not going anywhere without you," Hyun said into the microphone. The maw felt this conversation like a knife in its consciousness. These humans had just learned about other prey, other sources of the fear and despair it needed. They should be competing for resources, fighting over who would survive. Instead, they were planning a rescue mission. The ancient entity decided it was time to take direct action. It had been trying to corrupt the humans slowly, letting their own darkness grow naturally. But they seemed immune to the usual methods. It reached out with its vast consciousness and touched Captain Hyun's mind directly. Suddenly, Hyun was somewhere else. He stood on the bridge of his ship, but it was different. The walls were covered in blood. Bodies of his crew lay scattered on the floor. At his feet was his wife, Dr. Park Nari, her eyes staring at nothing. "This is your future," a voice whispered in his mind. It sounded like wind through broken glass. "This is what happens to those who defy me." The vision changed. Now Hyun saw his daughter Kim Sola, but she was older, maybe 20 years old. She was alone on a dead world, the last human alive. She was calling for her father, but he was not there to help her. "You could save them," the voice continued. "Give me what I want. Let me feed on the others, and I will spare your family. You can live. Your loved ones can live." All you have to do is stop caring about strangers. Hyun felt the temptation. It would be so easy to just think about his own family, to let someone else make the hard choices. The alien refugees were not his responsibility. His crew had signed up for danger when they joined the mission. For a moment he wavered. Then he remembered something his father had told him when he was young. A man is not measured by what he does for his family. Anyone will protect their own children. A man is measured by what he does for strangers. No, Hyun said out loud. I will not abandon anyone. The vision shattered. Hyun found himself back, on the real bridge with his crew looking at him with concern. Captain, are you okay? Asked Security Chief Cho Dae-hyun. You were standing there for 5 minutes not moving. I am fine, Hyun said, though his hands were shaking. The creature tried to make a deal with me. It offered to spare us if we let it have the other survivors. What did you tell it? Asked Dr. Yoon Ji-won. I told it no. The maw recoiled from this rejection like it had been burned. In all its long existence, prey had always accepted the bargain when offered. Survival was the strongest instinct in any living thing. But these humans kept choosing others over themselves. It was getting harder to think clearly. The constant exposure to human kindness was affecting its ability to focus. The entity that had once devoured worlds was becoming confused by simple acts of generosity. Meanwhile, the rescue mission was already beginning. Chief Engineer Kang Min-ho was working with a team to modify their shuttle bay. They were going to send small ships to collect the survivors from the other vessels. The radiation in this space is very dangerous, Min-ho explained. But if we rotate the pilots every 30 minutes, we can keep the exposure level safe. I will take the first run, volunteered pilot Han Ji-ho. He was young and fearless, the kind of person who became a pilot because he loved taking risks. No, I will go first, said navigator Im Soo-jin. I know the sensor readings better. I can find the other ships faster. We both go, Ji-ho decided. 2 pilots are safer than 1. The maw watched this planning with growing desperation. Why were they not fighting over who would stay safe? Why were they volunteering for the dangerous jobs? The first rescue shuttle launched 2 hours later. Ji-ho and Soo-jin flew through the twisted space toward the nearest trapped ship. The maw tried to stop them, sending waves of fear and doubt into their minds. But every time the pilots started to feel afraid, they talked to each other. They shared jokes, told stories about home, reminded each other why they were doing this. There are people counting on us, Soo-jin said as they approached the alien vessel. We cannot let them down. Besides, Ji-ho added with a grin, this is the most exciting thing that has happened all year. They docked with the alien ship and began transferring survivors. The beings they rescued were weak and frightened, but when they saw the humans risking their lives to save them, something changed in their eyes. Hope. The maw felt that hope like acid in its veins. These rescued aliens were supposed to be sources of despair. Instead, they were becoming sources of gratitude and renewed strength. For the first time in 10,000 years, the ancient entity began to feel truly afraid. Not just confused or frustrated, but genuinely scared. It was starving, and these humans were the reason why. The creature that had devoured 17 civilizations was beginning to realize that it might have finally found something it could not digest. Something that might actually destroy it. Dr. Park Nari woke up to chaos. Her cryogenic pod opened with a hiss, and the first thing she saw was her husband's face. Lee Hyun looked older than when she had gone to sleep, with new lines around his eyes and gray in his hair that had not been there before. How long was I asleep? She asked, sitting up slowly. 6 months, Hyun said, helping her stand. I am sorry I had to wake you, but we need every doctor we can get. Nari looked around the medical bay. It was full of beings she had never seen before. Blue-skinned aliens with 4 arms lay on beds next to creatures that looked like walking trees. In one corner, a being made of what appeared to be living crystal was being treated by Dr. Yoon Ji-won. What happened here? Nari asked. We found other survivors, hundreds of them, from dozens of different species. They have been trapped in this place for years, some of them. Many are sick and injured. Nari did not hesitate. She grabbed a medical kit and went to work. The alien biology was different from anything she had studied, but pain was universal. Fear was universal. And so was the need for someone to care. She knelt beside a young Kelton whose breathing was labored. The creature looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird, with scales that changed color based on its emotions. Right now, those scales were dark with despair. "It hurts," the Kelton whispered through the translator. "The shadow thing keeps showing me my family dying, over and over. I cannot make it stop." Nari took the creature's clawed hand in hers. "I know. But you are safe now. We will not let anything happen to you." As she worked, other humans came to help. Her daughter, Kim Sola, now awake from her own pod, was playing with a group of alien children. The young ones did not seem to care about the differences in species. They laughed together, shared toys, and drew pictures with crayons that Sola had brought from Earth. The maw felt this scene like poison flowing through its ancient consciousness. Children of different species, playing together without fear or hatred. Adults caring for aliens they had never met before. It was wrong. It was impossible. Every civilization the maw had consumed had fallen the same way. When resources became scarce, they turned on each other. When survival was at stake, they chose their own kind over strangers. But these humans kept doing the opposite. The entity decided it was time to end this. It had tried corruption, temptation, and fear. Now, it would try direct force. The shadows in the corners of the ship began to move. They flowed like liquid darkness, reaching out toward the humans and aliens. Where the shadows touched, people began to scream and collapse. "Everyone stay together," Captain Hyun ordered over the ship's communication system. "Do not let the darkness separate us." But the shadows were everywhere now, pouring through the ventilation systems and seeping through the walls. The maw was manifesting physically, using the last of its stored energy to attack directly. In the medical bay, Dr. Nari pulled the injured aliens into the center of the room, creating a circle with the human medical staff on the outside. "Hold hands," she told them. "All of us together." The mixed group of humans and aliens joined hands, forming a chain around the wounded. When the shadows reached for them, something strange happened. The darkness recoiled, as if burned by their touch. "It cannot handle us when we are united," Dr. Yoon realized. "Keep holding on." The same thing was happening throughout the ship. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Kang Minho stood back to back with a massive Bruthan warrior, both of them fighting off the creeping darkness. The alien was twice Minho's size and had 4 arms, but they worked together perfectly, covering each other's blind spots. On the bridge, Navigator Im Soo-jin was helping an elderly Vorthak female operate the sensor equipment. The old alien's tentacle fingers were perfect for the delicate work that human hands could not do. "I have lived for 300 years, the Vorthak said as they worked. "I have never seen beings like you humans. You risk everything for strangers." "That is just what people do," Soo-jin replied, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. The maw heard this conversation and felt something it had never experienced before. Not just confusion or anger, but actual pain. The casual way the human spoke about helping others, like it was normal and expected, hurt worse than any weapon. In the cargo bay, Security Chief Cho Dae-hyun was organizing the defense with beings from a dozen different species. They had no common language except what the translators provided, but they moved together like they had trained for years. "The children," called out a Zeldin with tentacle arms. "The shadow creatures are going after the children." Without hesitation, every adult in the group moved to protect the young ones. Human parents stood beside alien parents, all of them ready to die for children that were not even their own species. The shadows reached the group and stopped. Faced with this wall of united defenders, the maw's darkness could not advance. But the ancient entity had one more trick. It began to change, pulling its scattered consciousness together into a single form. The shadows flowed together, growing denser and more solid until something massive began to take shape in the center of the ship. The maw's true form was horrible to look at. It was larger than a building, made of darkness and hunger given shape. Tentacles covered in mouths reached out in all directions. At its center was an eye the size of a room, filled with the light of dying stars. The creature filled the main cargo bay, its presence making the air itself hard to breathe. When it spoke, its voice was like the sound of worlds ending. "Enough," it said. "You have poisoned me with your weakness. You have made me sick with your foolish kindness. But I am still strong enough to destroy you all." The maw raised a massive tentacle, ready to crush the humans and aliens huddled below. But before it could strike, something unexpected happened. Pilot Han Jiho stepped forward. He was young and had been making jokes just minutes before, but now his face was serious. "Wait," he said to the creature. "Before you kill us, let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt full? Really satisfied after a meal?" The maw paused, confused by the question. "Because," Jiho continued, "I have been thinking about what Navigator Sujin discovered. You feed on hatred and fear, right? But when was the last time any species gave you what you really needed?" The ancient entity realized with growing horror what the human was suggesting. It had been growing weaker for centuries, not stronger. Each civilization it consumed gave it less nourishment than the last. It had thought this was normal, the way of things, but what if it was not normal? What if it was starving and had been starving for a very long time? "The 17 worlds you ate," Jiho pressed on. "Did any of them really satisfy you? Or did you always need to find another one because you were still hungry?" The maw's eye widened in realization. The human was right. It had been starving for millennia, desperately seeking more food because nothing it consumed gave it real sustenance anymore. And now it knew why. The galaxy had been learning. Each species that encountered the maw's survivors carried stories of what had happened. Over thousands of years, civilizations had slowly become kinder, more cooperative, more willing to help each other in times of crisis. The maw had been poisoning its own food supply without realizing it. "You are dying," Jiho said gently, almost with pity. "Not because we are killing you, but because you have been starving yourself for so long. When did you last feel truly fed? Truly satisfied?" The ancient creature could not remember. The hunger had been with it for so long that it had forgotten what it felt like to be full. And now, faced with the purest kindness it had ever encountered, the maw realized it was too late to change. It was going to starve, and there was nothing it could do to stop it. The maw hung in the cargo bay like a living nightmare, its massive form pulsing with weak light. For the first time in 10,000 years, the ancient entity was afraid. Not afraid of death, for it had always believed itself immortal. Afraid of something worse. Afraid of fading away into nothing, forgotten and empty. Captain Lee Hyun stepped forward to stand beside pilot Han Jiho. Around them, hundreds of humans and aliens watched in silence. Children hid behind their parents, but they did not run. They stayed together. "You know what we are going to do now," Hyun said to the creature. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "We are going to leave this place. All of us. And we are going to let everyone know what happened here." The maw's great eye focused on him. "You think you have won, but I can still destroy you. I can still feast on your pain as you die." "Yes," Hyun agreed. "You probably can kill us, but it will not help. You will it? You will still be hungry afterward. You will still be dying." The entity's tentacles writhed in frustration. "What do you want from me?" It was Dr. Park Nari who answered. She had been quiet until now, but she stepped forward with the confidence of someone who had spent her life healing others. "We want to offer you a choice," she said. "The same choice you have been offering others for thousands of years." The maw was confused. "What choice?" "You can let us go," Nari continued. "All of us. Every ship you have captured, every being you have trapped here. Let us leave in peace and we will carry your story to the rest of the galaxy. And if I refuse, then you die here alone and forgotten. No one will ever know you existed. No one will remember the civilizations you destroyed. You will just fade away into nothing. The ancient creature felt something it had not experienced since it was young. Fear of being alone. It had spent so long consuming others that it had forgotten what it was like to exist without them. But if you let us go, added Chief Engineer Kang Minho, we will remember you. We will tell others what you were, what you did. You will not be forgotten. The Maw realized they were offering it something more valuable than food. They were offering it immortality of a different kind. Not the endless hunger it had known, but the chance to be remembered. Why? The entity asked. Why would you give me this choice? I have tried to kill you. I have tortured you. Young Kim Sola pushed forward through the crowd of adults. At 12 years old, she was small and fragile compared to the massive alien creature, but she showed no fear. Because that is what good people do, she said simply. They help others even when those others have been mean to them. The Maw looked down at this tiny human child who was offering kindness to a monster. In all its long existence, it had never encountered anything like this. Pure innocence, giving mercy to something that deserved none. The taste of this moment was unlike anything the entity had ever experienced. Not the bitter poison of human kindness it had been choking on, but something else. Something that might have been called bittersweet. For the first time, the Maw understood what it had been missing all these years. It had been feeding on fear and hatred, but those emotions were empty. They filled the belly but left the soul hungry. What these humans offered was different. It was nourishing in a way the creature had never known. I accept, the Maw said quietly. I will release everyone. The change began immediately. The twisted space around them started to straighten. The red glow that had filled this pocket dimension began to fade, replaced by the normal black of deep space. Stars appeared in the distance, real stars that belonged to the galaxy they all knew. One by one, the trapped ships began to move. Vessels that had been held here for years slowly drifted toward freedom. Their engines came back online as the Maw's influence weakened, but something else was happening too. The ancient entity was shrinking. As it released its hold on the trapped ships and beings, it was using up the last of its stored energy. The creature that had once been larger than a building was now no bigger than a person. Are you dying? Asked Dr. Yoon Jiwon with genuine concern. Yes, the Maw replied. Its voice was softer now, almost human in its sadness. I used everything I had left to bring you here and hold you. Now that I am letting go, there is nothing left. Navigator Im Sujin looked at her instruments. The portal. Home is opening. All ships can escape now. But instead of celebrating, the humans and aliens in the cargo bay gathered closer to the dying entity. They formed a circle around it. Not as guards or captors, but as companions. You do not have to die alone, said Security Chief Cho De-hyun. We can stay with you. The Maw felt tears, though it had no eyes to cry with. You would do that? After everything I have done? Everyone deserves to have someone with them at the end, said Communications Officer Young Woo-jin. Even you. The ancient creature looked around at the faces surrounding it. Humans and aliens, adults and children, all looking at it with something it had never seen before. Not fear, not hatred, but compassion. Tell me about your worlds, the Maw said weakly. Tell me about the good things, the beautiful things. I want to understand what I destroyed. And so they did. As the entity grew smaller and weaker, the survivors told it stories. Stories of home, of families, of art and music and love. They shared memories of sunsets and laughter, of children learning to walk and old people passing down wisdom. The Maw listened to every word. For the first time in its existence, it was learning what it meant to truly live instead of just survive. I understand now. It whispered as its form began to fade. I was never really alive. I was just hungry. But you taught me something different. You taught me what it means to care about others. Kim Sola reached out and touched what remained of the creature. It was warm like sunlight. Will you remember us, she asked. Forever, the Maw promised. And I will remember what you taught me. That kindness is stronger than hunger. That love is stronger than fear. The ancient entity faded away with those words, dissolving into sparkles of light that drifted upward and disappeared. In the silence that followed, Captain Hewen looked around at his crew and the hundreds of beings they had saved. "Time to go home," he said. The ships formed a convoy as they left the dying pocket of space. Humans and aliens working together, sharing resources and knowledge. Children who had been enemies on their homeworlds now played together in the corridors. As they traveled back toward known space, they carried with them the story of the Maw. Not as a monster to be feared, but as a being that had learned, in its final moments, what it meant to love. And in the years that followed, that story would spread across the galaxy. Species that had been enemies would remember what the humans had taught them. That kindness was not weakness. That mercy was not foolishness. That sometimes the greatest weapon against darkness was simply the willingness to help a stranger in need. The Maw was gone, but its final lesson lived on. And the galaxy was a little bit brighter because of it.